only prayer we may have for that week. And God forbid the pastor don't pray. He might overlook the program and get caught up in the crowd. I got to sing and I almost overlook the program. So, the spirit may hit. And you just may accidentally forget that part in there. If you ain't looking at it and you forget to pray. So you might not get your prayer. While Jesus was up on the mountain, the disciples came down amongst the people where they were his representatives. Now we have to understand, when Jesus is not here, we are his representatives. People bring their friends who need God to church because the church should be where Christians represent themselves here on earth. But the church today sometimes experiences the same power failure that the disciples did. It's unable to help someone who is desperately in need of ministry. These people who are in such need not only to be brought to church, they need to be brought to Jesus. They don't need religion. They need a relationship with God. The church must be focused on pointing people to Jesus. Not the ministry, not the choir, not the programs, but the one who can truly meet their deepest needs. And Jesus should be the main focus of every preacher, every ministry, every objective that you do in the church. But unfortunately, as Christians, we get caught up in the same trap. We go through time without a devotional life with God. We can feel his power working in us sometimes. When he begins to feel good, when we feel good about that, then our time and our connection begins to slip away. You see, what Jesus meant to his disciples was, you need to fast and pray more. Sometimes in the midst of your life, you need to stop. You need to stop. I don't care how busy you are. I learned this after I had some severe problems with my cell phone. My cell phone kept cutting off on me. And I kept seeing 4 bars in my charge thing. When you get 4 bars, that means it's supposed to be charged. So I took it in, and the man actually told me there are times when you have to let your battery run out. Most of us, when we just charge it every night and it's halfway dead. When you do that, you're messing up your battery. Every now and then you got to let your battery run out and charge it from 0 so that your battery thinks and begins to function like a battery is supposed to do. The problem with that in our spiritual life is we get too caught up with life that we forget to recharge. That is what fasting and prayer is. Fasting is not just going without food. Fasting is setting some time aside where I'm not going to do nothing but pray and be with God. Not going to eat, not going to sleep, not going to watch TV, not going to have food, not going to drink, not going to party, you can't fast with earphones in your ear. Unplug your iPod, whatever you got plugged into your ear, put yourself in your closet if that's what it takes. Fasting is when you do nothing but stay with God. Not going to, that's why you give up food, because you are sacrificing the essentials of your physical flesh. You can't fast by just giving up chocolate ice cream. You can't fast just by giving up beans. If you're going to fast, you got to give it up. Now, there are some things God does say you can't eat. If you understand that Daniel fast and the eating fast, because he describes those things in the Old Testament, the different vegetables and fruits because what they did, and as you read Isaiah 58, God says your fast must be sincere. You must set yourself aside so that God and you can have a one-on-one relationship, and you can't share your God time with nobody. And the reason why the disciples could not heal the boy because they were neglecting to have a one-on-one relationship with God. You can't expect to see God every now and then expect God to give you the power to heal if you only visit God every now and then when you feel like it. You got to keep God in your life. You got to set God as a priority. You cannot fast and pray when your mind is on the football game or on your tour. You got to give up some stuff. You got to sacrifice some stuff. And sometimes you got to go a long time. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And Jesus was God. But yet he fasted. Unfortunately, the bad thing is our power failures have negative consequences. Because when other folks see that you can't do stuff, why do I need to go to church too? You see, when the disciples were having their power failure, the Jews and the Pharisees, see, y'all following this man and y'all can't even do nothing. And y'all got this foreign religion, y'all just playing church. And that's what other folks say. When folks see you shouting, running around these aisles on Sunday, and you get out there in the real world and you can't act holy, they know you faking. You can't shout on Sunday and be in the streets on Monday. Why should I go? Because you're just being a hypocrite. You talk about Jesus is good and Jesus is good, Jesus can heal, and you ain't healing nobody. You sick, you got diabetes, you got high blood pressure, you got problems in your life, and you talk about Jesus can't fix my problems. He ain't done nothing for you. You have to understand, it creates a problem for God because we're misrepresenting who God really is. And I'm sure they tried to speak to them in many ways to minimize the impact. But then Jesus' followers, who were doing great things in his name, had the door slammed right there in their face. If you are a Christian and you're claiming it, then you are not having power failure in your life. But because of power failures, we become vulnerable to the enemies of Christ. They can question the validity of who you say you are. And I believe maybe that's why sometimes we are just afraid to tell folk we are Christians. Because we don't know whether we are really acting like them or not. We're not sure if the power is connected thoroughly. Christian people are watching you, and it's not just people who are curious about your faith. It's people who are opposed to your faith. Your enemies, Satan, is watching you, waiting to see the power failures in your life. And if we have a power failure, we have opened the door of the enemy to come into the church. Those people who are so callous and hard-hearted that they would never allow Jesus to prove to them that he is the Son of God. That's just what they want. They are stuck in that third chair. But if you really want to have an impact and powerful life, you got to get into the first chair. We talked about that because that second chair is a hard chair to deal with. But it's just like these teachers of the law engaged in the crowd. The consequences didn't stop here. They had a power failure. But look what else he did. The man who had brought that child to be healed also began to have doubts. Now he came there trusting in Jesus. Jesus wasn't there. So the disciples stepped in. Surely you all are his disciples. So you ought to be able to do it too. So they failed. when Jesus came, the man was beginning to have doubts about Jesus. So he said, you know, Jesus, if you can. And Jesus looked at him funny. What you mean, if I can? You can do all things. Yes. If you believe. Yes. Ain't no if to. The problem is, do you believe that I can do it? Yes. Is your faith real? Or is your faith iffy faith? And the man confessed, Lord, help my unbelief. The boy's father had some faith, but he didn't realize he had enough. He needed to help him with part of his discouragement, his disappointment, and his disillusionment. God knows when we are confessing, we acknowledge that we need God's help. Yeah. And this is probably part of the sickness of the church. This is flu season. And everybody needs to get a flu shot. Yeah. Now, what the flu shot is just a little bit of the flu. They inject just a little bit of the flu in you to build up your immune system to keep you from getting the whole flu. Some people don't want to get flu shots because they are afraid that the flu shot is going to give them the whole flu. Some Christians come to church so that they can have a flu shot. I just want a little bit of Christianity, just enough to be saved. To be contagious with the flu. Because I can't serve like the disciples served. I can't leave my home and witness to folk. I can't give my life to Christ. I can't pay 10%. I can't do everything that a real Christian ought to do. I can't love everybody. I just want to flu shot. Just give me enough so that I can get saved. I don't want to be a Christian. That's too much to ask. That's too much power for one person to have. I don't want to be able to walk on water. See, when you fail to recognize what being a Christian is, you miss out on the power and the joy that comes with it. We are struggling with this faith because we have a power of faith which has weakened our faith. I'm not saying that you should be able to pray and everyone's sickness will be healed. Although make no mistake about it, God will heal people through our prayers. Sometimes God heals people by taking them out of their pain. God may need to take your loved one out of this world in order that they might be healed. Because when they go, they're not sick. They may have cancer here, but when they leave here, the cancer stays here. They're not suffering no more. They're not in pain no more. They're not going through hardship anymore. You ain't got to cry about them because they're feeling good about themselves. They're happy where they're at. And I'm sure no matter how much you cry, is we assume God has the power to do things in God's name. And yes, you can do anything in Jesus' name. But if you've never been connected to him, if you ain't never called on him, if you don't quite know who he is, you can have problems. And when you want to use God's power, it's not going to work. Because you haven't fasted, you haven't prayed, you hardly even read the word. You just assume as long as I come to church and get my shower on. We use the church as a filling station. Kind of to say it. And don't get me wrong. Choir sing really good. We could probably take that shout all the way up to 3 o'clock. But after 3 o'clock, your life is going to resume. And all these fine ladies up here, they ain't got time to follow you around every time you get weak and sing to you every time you get all messed up. They got stuff they got to do. They can't follow you around throughout the week and shout you back happy and get you feeling. You got to have more than they sing. You got to have more than the people. You got to have more than just what we do between 11 and 12. You got to have your own relationship with God. There are some things that you can only do in your life if you have fasted and prayed. A lot of your problems will go away if you fast more, spend more time with God and less time with yourself. That's what fasting is. It's a denial. That's why you can't heal.